police emergency.
Hello, I'm a door supervisor. I've just been told a young lady's been stabbed. Yeah, she's on the floor. Please. Hello, can everyone calm down a second, please? Who by? Do you know who by?
Where is he now?
I don't know. He's run off. Is she alright? Is she still breathing? Okay. I've just been found out someone else has been stabbed now. He's been stabbed in the neck.
This is the Scarcity Studios YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. And our sponsors at Alpha Claims and Hire Birmingham, the leading and best accident management company. Get a replacement car anywhere in 1 hour. I really appreciate you joining me today, and this is a follow-up to a story that I've been covering for over a year. A lot of stories do take a long time to be able to speak about them and also to give the full story as well. I went to the scene of these stabbings and the murder, and I went there the day after as well to interview witnesses from the scene because nobody knew anything about this story. It was a really weird one. In 2021, nobody had any footage of any of the attacks, and it took place over a long period of time. Their excuse for not getting to the stabbings quick enough was that they're used to getting multiple reports of stabbings on the weekend in Birmingham. And personally, I don't think that is a good enough excuse. And if that is the case, why are they not doing more to prevent it?
That was the best quality footage we had available at that particular time. If we'd have released footage prior to that, it would have been of even further poor quality, and we would have risked diverting our police resources away from identifying and arresting somebody.
This incident, some people described like a terrorist attack at the time. If this was a terror attack, there would have definitely been more people dead. Another major thing to highlight in this story has definitely got to be mental health as well. Something I think is really important on the channel, and I've always tried to highlight and to discuss and to see what we can do more in relation to it. I've seen a lot of similarities with this story as other stories as well, and I feel like Birmingham hasn't learned lessons from cases that have already happened. Upon going to the scenes and also interviewing people, I even did a walkthrough of the crime scenes where I went from the first place that Zephaniah stabbed somebody to the last place. And we also worked out the travel time as well, because police say that he got a taxi, went back to his flat and came back to the city centre to stab more people. In September 2020, the series of stabbings over several hours in Birmingham city centre left 7 people injured and 1 young man dead, leaving the city in shock and stunned. On Thursday the 18th of November, 28-year-old Zephaniah McLeod was sentenced to 4 counts of attempted murder, 3 counts of wounding and manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. At Birmingham Crown Court, he has been given a life sentence to serve a minimum of 21 years. Zephaniah is currently being held in a secure mental health facility and will only be transferred to prison to serve the remainder of his sentence when he is deemed well enough. The events occurred on the 6th of September 2020. At just gone 12 o'clock, Zephaniah was on Constitution Hill and he stabbed a 33-year-old male in the neck and then left the scene. 20 minutes later, a 25-year-old woman was stabbed in her shoulder on Livery Street. And minutes after that, somebody was stabbed on Barwick Street, a 29-year-old man, and was left in a critical condition with a stab wound to the chest. Superintendent Jim Monroe was the senior investigating officer for the case, and he said that it was not unusual to receive multiple reports of assaults, some involving weapons, on a busy weekend in the city centre. Our CCTV operators immediately began exploring the scene that was reported to us, and later that day we identified a potential suspect linked to the attacks. It wasn't actually until 4 p.m. the next day when they released an image. So Zephaniah was able to walk around. After Barwick Street, he went home and then returned, and that is when he would kill the student Jacob Billington. That was the time he should have been apprehended to have stopped this as well. But the fact that he was then able to leave town for the second time and then go back home and not be arrested until the next day. The police had no idea, as the witness told me when I interviewed them, what Zephaniah looked like until the day after. After Barwick Street stabbing, Zephaniah went home, came back, And at 10 to 2, he launched his next attack in Irving Street. A group of school friends from Liverpool were returning to their hotel after a night out, and Jacob Billington had been studying nearby. He was 23 years old and a graduate from Sheffield Hallam University. He was fatally stabbed, and his close friend Michael Callaghan, also 23, was critically injured. Zephaniah then went on to stab 2 more men, aged 29 and 24, and also inflicted critical injuries on a 23-year-old woman shortly after in Hurst Street. Thankfully, all of them have recovered. But from the CCTV evidence, it's emerged that after leaving Barwick Street, Zephaniah dumped his knife in a drain, tried to obtain another one from a pizza takeaway, but they refused him. He then got a taxi home to Selly Oak, rearmed himself, and came back to the city centre. This is truly a very unique story in some aspects, because of the way that he was able to come and go from town, which is the most heavily cameraed part of the city, and return and go back again. And also the communication between the police and the emergency services. There was video footage of ambulances queuing up outside of town, and they couldn't go in. They said that the police wouldn't let them in until it had been approved.
Come to the front door now! Come downstairs! Come to us! Walk down to us, Zephaniah! Keep your hands where we can see them! Get your hands where we can see them! Drop that on the floor! Drop that on the floor now! Put the jumper down! Put the jumper down! Walk downstairs! I'm going to dress to the left and the center. Walk downstairs! Yeah. Stand still! Stand still! Turn round! Turn round! Walk back! Walk back! Hands be on your back. What other people in you, at least female and one other male? One secure.
Another thing that has been revealed since the trial was a paranoid schizophrenic, and he was under mental health care, and he'd also recently been released from prison. And this echoes the exact same situation that we had with Christina Edkins' killer. Back in 2013, Christina Edkins was a schoolgirl who was on a bus and was murdered by a paranoid schizophrenic who had recently been released from prison and wasn't getting the help that he needed. A psychiatrist even said in court that they had no idea where Zephaniah was when he was released from prison. And this for me is shocking and also terrifying, to think that there are people that are not stable, that need help and need to be in a place where they get the medication to be able to control it. And they're able to just walk the streets. And if somebody gets killed, they will not face justice. They will not get the justice that most families would be happy with. And after the murder of Christina Edkins, there was 29 recommendations that have clearly not been taken seriously. Throughout lockdown, all we've seen is a massive deterioration in mental health. And if this has happened again with the same exact situation of mental health systems failing, it's only a matter of time before we are back doing the same story, but with a different victim. And that is the last thing that I want. So if you are suffering with any mental health issues, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or get help, and I'll leave links in the bio from any sort of situation. I do understand there's a massive lack of response time when people do need this help. So I think something needs to be done in order to improve this. So rest in peace to Jacob Billington, and I really want to hear what everyone has to say on this story. Thank you for everyone that has followed me and followed this story throughout this time. And if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to give you the coverage that I feel we deserve. So don't forget to follow me online as well and send your stories to news@scarcitystudios.com. I'll be back again very shortly with some more. Peace.
Well, we just got a knock on the door from the police in the very early hours. It was Merseyside police who came to give us the message, and they didn't have a heap of information really. I had no idea anything had gone on in Birmingham, although I believe it was all over the news, but I'd already gone to bed. And we just got a knock on the door, 2 police officers, exactly how you think it is. You know, we've got something to tell you, can we come in? And then it was Jacob in Birmingham last night. You know, we're sorry to tell you that there's been an incident in Birmingham, and Jacob's passed away. It was absolutely horrendous, and then we had to make the decision about when we were waking the girls up to tell them, because we'd been told about 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock. So that, you know, how are you going to do that? What are you going to tell? I remember going to get your abs, didn't I, and telling you to come downstairs, and you had a big cob on because I'd woke you up.
It's like 7 or 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
Just no idea why you were getting me up.
And his youngest sister, Isabel, was only 13 at the time. So we brought them downstairs and just had to tell them what had happened. I think it's, if anyone's got kids here, it's like your worst nightmare, and it is as bad as you think.
We were called in the morning about 5:30 by a nurse to say that he was in theatre and he was stable. And so obviously that was, you know, terrible to hear. We didn't know what she was talking about, and I said, "What's happened?" She said, "He's been stabbed," and I couldn't grasp it at all. And we don't really understand how he even survived, because people don't survive those injuries, do they? So we don't understand why he survived. We've had real milestones, you know, and being able to sit up and being able to sit in an ordinary wheelchair. You know, obviously him getting up on his feet, using the stairs. I mean, we've had just some fantastic milestones, and I'm sure there's more to come, you know, because he's so determined. He really is very, very, very determined young man. He talks about his loss and his grief. He did say he would swap places if he could.
I'd love to ask him why. Why did he pick Jacob? Why did he pick Michael? Why did he pick those other people who were doing no harm on the night? But I think this year I've tried my best to sort of try and concentrate on what I can change or have an impact with, rather than the things I can't change. And I can't change him or why he did it.
He's not answered any questions, he's not talked about it, we don't know anything about why he did what he did.
Hello, ambulance service, is the patient breathing?
My son and his friends travelled to Birmingham on the 5th of September 2020 for a night out. Jacob sadly never came home, while his friend Michael sustained life-changing injuries. Jacob and Michael and 6 other people had the misfortune to encounter a man who attacked them while they were enjoying themselves. This man, Zephaniah McLeod, brought terror to the streets of Birmingham on the night of the 6th of September in a 2-hour orchestrated attack on everyone. He's been presented as a man with a significant mental health disorder, paranoid schizophrenia, but he was able to plan a 2-hour campaign, arming himself with deadly weapons, and even returned to his home address to rearm himself before travelling back to the city centre to continue his attacks. To us, this means he had a guilty mind, and he is a murderer. He's been presented by his defence team as a victim of his health, not in control of his actions. And yet, we've also heard about a man with multiple previous offences, multiple prison sentences, a man who attacks women from behind to steal gold necklaces, a man who caused harm to a 6-month-old baby, a man who carries knives and firearms, a man who trades in and uses crack cocaine and cannabis. He is not a victim. My son, murdered by McLeod, is the victim. Michael Callaghan, Jacob's best mate, is the victim. 6 other young people who were innocently going about their business on the 6th of September in Birmingham are the victims. Finally, we now know, after delay upon delay in getting to court, that McLeod will serve a life sentence with a minimum of 21 years. We've been reassured by Mr. Callaghan afterwards that it is highly unlikely that McLeod will ever see the light of day again, and that gives us a lot of reassurances. We are happy that this dangerous and evil man has been removed from society. And while we continue to grieve for Jacob, we must ask the obvious question: why was McLeod, known to so many agencies, allowed to be out and about on the 6th of September, unsupervised, unmedicated, and not under licence? These are the questions that the adult mental health services, prison services and probation services must answer. We miss Jacob every single day, but we take this opportunity to thank Jacob's friends who are behind me our family and our friends for the love and support they've given us. Thank you very much.